What are the Dwadashapranas? Dwadasha means the 12. Dwa is 12, Dasha is 10. The Dwadashapranas are 12 aspects of the prana that enable us to be a functional human being. So they are not 12 different pranas as many people seem to think. They are different facets of the same prana in us that enhance our psychophysiological functioning as a human being. So you will notice I said there are two words here, psycho and physiological. Psycho represents here the psychological, the mental aspects, the intellectual aspects that truly make us a human being. What is it that enables us to stand out from other living beings? Well, to some extent, our capacity of choice, discernment, and the second is our capacity of language. These are two things that distinguish the human from other living beings. We don't usually bark or meow, and usually we can make an informed choice. Please note, usually. Okay? Nowadays, though I believe in the goodness of human beings and I am a humanist at heart, even some days I am getting disillusioned looking at humanity today. So, just to put it on the record. The physiological function that we have is very similar to the physiological function of all living beings. So the cardiovascular functioning, the respiratory function, the neuronal function, the kidneys functioning, the digestive functioning of a dog, a cat, a goat, a horse, an elephant and a human being are not too different. Most put food in the mouth and something else comes out the other end. All these beings that happens, the process is similar. They may have a few extra compartments in the stomach in cows and others, and there may be a few enzymatic differences. The general physiology is very, very similar. In fact, the general anatomy is also very, very similar. What is it that drives the physiological function? It is the life force. What is the life force? It is prana. So the cosmic prana assimilated by the individual enhances different physiological functions, of which the 5 major physiological functions that the yogis conceptualized thousands of years ago, I would like you to note, are the cardiopulmonary functionality of the heart region governed by prana. The excretory eliminatory capacity governed by apana. The digestive functionality governed by samana. The energy that moves throughout the body, enabling circulation, sensory motor functionality, all of that through vyana. And udana, the communication. And as Swamiji has actually taken it forward, much of the motor functioning also he has put under Udana Vayu. He has kept Vyana for the sensory and Udana for the motor. This is what makes you a functional physiological being. Now along with that, because we are living beings, we need to protect our life. Self-defense is considered ahimsa in yoga. This is where Gandhi's perspective of ahimsa and the yogic perspective do differ drastically. Gandhi's perspective is, let people kill you because you are believing in non-violence. The yogis said, allowing somebody to kill you is you participating in the violence. There's a huge difference. Many people don't understand the difference there. Self-defense is accepted in ahimsa from the yogic perspective. We need to survive. One of the most important aspects of all survival mechanisms are the reflexes. If we didn't have reflexes, we would be a dead duck walking. Sorry, a dead duck doesn't walk. Dead duck was walking. Does it walk after it's dead? We would be a rabbit caught in the headlights on the highway at midnight if we didn't have our reflexes. These reflexes, mind you, are not just human. Most other living beings also have reflexes because every living being wants to survive at any cost. This is where what makes us human is to transcend the desire to survive at any cost. And that is why the great humans who make great sacrifices, even at the cost of their own life, are immortalized in our glorious literature worldwide. One of the first mechanisms is the digestive process, because ever since we started eating, we knew that something we eat could kill us. And so our digestive tract developed reflexes that if you took something that didn't agree with you or you didn't agree with, you would throw it back out. Anti-peristalsis. Yeah. You put it in and your throat or your esophagus or your stomach says, that is not to be eaten. Naga. That is the energy that protects you, the Naga Upaprana Vayu. One of the foremost, very useful. Nowadays the problem is we don't know the distinction between food and poison anymore, because it comes wrapped as fast food. Pure plastic. Put it in one end, it comes out the other end undigested. The second, kurma, is the eyes, because we realized we have sacrificed a lot of our sensory apparatus as we evolved. And the only one thing that actually we can trust most of the time is our eyesight. We can see things and we can move out of the way, we can run away, we can climb trees. Because through our hearing we realize we cannot distinguish too many things. Our smell has gone downhill ever since we stood up. Pigs and dogs and cats and rats have better smell than us. Our taste buds have got dulled. Our sense of touch, we have become very, very dull to that. The one thing that is very important is we need to see the enemy in order to survive. And that is why kurma, which is the energy that enables us to blink and see, became a very important protective reflex. And it links to our autonomic nervous system. Your pupillary dilatation and constriction is one of the very important aspects of the autonomic nervous system, and is linked to your brainstem, which again is survival mode. Brainstem, survival. This is why if you come into the emergency room and your pupils are not reactive, it means you are brain dead. One of the worst things the doctor can see is he puts a light into your eyes and the pupils don't react to light, you are brain dead. The pupillary reaction, kurma, is linked to your brainstem, survival mode. Remember, survival mode, and your autonomic nervous system, because your sympathetic nervous system will dilate the pupils, parasympathetic will constrict the pupils. Because whenever you are stressed, you need to be more aware of the enemy, you need to look at the enemy and see them. And if not, you can relax and close your eyes. Kurma is part of your nervous system. That is why Patanjali tells, Kurma Nadyam Sthayiryam, when you can master through deep contemplation on the Kurma Nadi, you attain stability. What is that stability? Autonomic balance. Sympatho-vagal balance is what Patanjali is talking about. Then the third one is, something comes up your nose and kills you. Something goes down your throat and kills you because of not being alert and seeing what's happening around you, you get killed. And the third is, something goes up your nose. These days young people put so many things up their nose in order to boost their ultra conscious states. This nose is a very dangerous one because it is the shortest of all the cranial nerves. The olfactory nerve is the shortest, and you know what? It goes straight to your limbic system. See, when you see something, it has to travel through a lot of pathways to get into your consciousness. When you hear something, it has to go through a lot of pathways, especially the thalamus. Thalamus is the relay station for all sensation except smell. Because smell goes straight to your limbic system. In fact, there's a part of the limbic system that is the smell center. And that is why the thing that triggers emotions usually is smell. We don't realize it. Smell triggers emotions, and because we don't know what we are smelling, we don't know what is triggering our emotions. Animals know it better. Go straight up. Boom! That is why the yogic cleansing practices, neti and all, are so useful, because you are enhancing the capacity to understand what is triggering your emotional volatility. Because most people don't know what's triggering it, because they have not smelt it, but it has gone up into the brain. Krikara, naga, like the snake coming up. Naga, kurma, the tortoise, limbs going out and in, your pupils dilating and constricting. Kvikara, the sneezing. Then Devadatta, yawning. What is the protective function of yawning? Makes the teacher shut up in class. Students are bored, so stop the class. What do you think, Radu, if all your students start yawning in class? You don't look at them, you just continue. The most difficult job today is to teach. Especially these adolescents. But I tell you, that is the most important thing. It may be the most difficult, but seriously, we need people who can actually give our young people a bigger perspective of the world. Google will not do it, ChatGPT will definitely not do it. Somebody said ChatGPT has amazing language skills but no soul. It's a beautiful statement. I really love that statement, because I've been playing around with my ChatGPT a lot these days. And it can create much better language pieces than I can ever create. But there's just no soul in it. There's no feel. That's what I call it, feel. I read somebody called it soul, but I call it the feel, which comes with human writing. But now you can put that back into another artificial intelligence which will humanize it. As someone said the other day, the peak of being human is the capacity to identify sidewalks in boxes so that the computer will accept you're human. And the robo computer has to accept you are human by you clicking boxes that have pavements or bicycles or traffic lights in them. Peak of being human. How do you prove you are human? Not by laughing, not by smiling, but by choosing. Again, choosing. Discernment, viveka. The yawning is actually part of our psychosocial behavior. Because I have been talking about all of these as reflexes that enable us to survive. One of the most important aspects of survival is herd mentality, herd immunity. Because if you are part of a herd, you have better chances of survival. And my mic just bent down because it said, that's not for me. It just went plonk, stand up. I have reset my audio settings and trying to see that nowadays it's helping me chant like my ohms better. Om. I think you got the end of the I've been trying out a few things because that has been one of my big pet peeves with Zoom. Herd mentality is so essential for survival. That's why people like to be in herds. 10 young people get together and you cannot get them to do anything. You know what you have to do? Get each one of them separately. And then all 10 will come in line. I remember the guy who was owning our medical college. In our final year, we all thought we were being very smart and that we had found a reason why the college had to pay us back some of the money we had paid it. Because there was a lot of confusion. Supreme Court kept on ruling what our medical fees were to be paid each year. So one year it was this, another year it was this, and so it kept on changing, and so we calculated the college owed us some money, and so we sent in letters saying we want that money back. I will never forget, he's one of India's top politicians, and now I know why he is that politician. All of us were there and he sat inside his room and called us in one by one. And each one he showed an account that we owed the college another huge amount of money. He was able to navigate the finances to show that he didn't owe us money, we owed him the money, and he is like, if you don't pay this, I won't let you write your exam that comes up next month. I won't give you a hall ticket. Every one of the 100 students broke down and ended up paying that money to him. Everyone. Because when you're on your own, you're vulnerable. The moment you have company, you feel safe. This is the psychosocial aspect of survival. This is why always humans, well, even animals do it, okay? You look at in Africa, those buffaloes, they'll all be in a herd because they know if they're in the herd, the lion's not going to get them. The one which is outside the herd on its own is going to be hunted down first. What is one of the herd behaviors that we all have? Yawning. Yawning is one of the herd behavior. That's why if one person in a room starts yawning, everybody starts yawning. And this develops around the second year of human life. This response to yawning in response to another person's yawning is around the second year as your nervous system starts to get myelinated fully. The first 2 years are the most important part of the development of your nervous system and all the myelination. Without myelination, you will not function efficiently. It is the highway. Myelinated nerves are the highway. Non-myelinated nerves are Indian roads with potholes. No, non-myelinated nerves are Indian dirt roads. The potholed ones are multiple sclerosis. The way to understand multiple sclerosis is it is like driving on a road filled with potholes. That's what your nervous system is having to do in multiple sclerosis. When your nerves are myelinated, it is like you're on a freeway, a highway, and you can go at the highest efficiency. And this is why young infants, they don't respond to your yawn. And then suddenly they do. I tested this hypothesis out with Divya when she was a kid. I've talked about this before. And when she was a few months old, I used to, whenever I had to yawn, go in front of her and yawn and see whether she would yawn back. And then one day she did. I think she was about 12 months or 13 months old when that happened. That was my physiological experiment with my daughter. Don't tell her I did that. She'll get mad at you for it. And she's mad at me for it. Mad at you for telling on me to her. She loves me too much. So, yawning is a connection we share with those who are part of the us. The us versus them, which is what politicians are playing a lot these days. They've always played that. Divide and rule is how India was ruled for 200 years by the British. There's no other way you could have ruled, anybody could have ever ruled India. And that is why Trump can put how many ever tariffs he wants. We survived 200 years of the British. We will survive your tariffs and come out better. Especially if all those brilliant Indians decide to come back to India, we'll be very happy. And I think that's actually what's going to happen. You're going to see more people stay back home and use their genius, and India starts to shine as it should. That's all, finished. Kick out brilliant people and you're going to lose them, that's all. But coming back, yawning, Devadatta, is a sign of psychosocial connectivity, which again strengthens our survival. But then there is an energy that stays on even after we have breathed our last. And that is called Dhananjaya. Dhananjaya is the Upaprana Vayu that stays on even after we have breathed the last. And there is a lot of debate whether it is 4 hours, whether it is 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, 2 weeks. I think the maximum I have heard is 2 weeks. And this is why in Indian families, when somebody dies, there is a period of about 2 weeks of mourning and lot of ceremonies are done, and then around the 11th or 12th day, there is a very big ceremony done, a cleansing done, and then there's a celebration, and then after that you are back to normal. And it is like that energy of the person is still there with you in another form, though they have been cremated, though they have been buried. The physical body has been cremated or buried, but still the energy is with you for a certain period of time. And then there is a Shuddhi. Shuddhi is a purification that is done, and the whole house is purified in a ceremonial way. Till then the family is considered in some way impure because that energy of death is still with them. So they are not supposed to participate in auspicious activities, and there are different social aspects to it. But once that ceremony is done, you are now back to normal. And then after that, remember the departed soul with love, respect and grace. There is a very beautiful part of this ceremony. A lot of people are fed. All Indian ceremonies you have to be fed, right? That's important. So usually a good meal, and you invite everybody to come and have that meal, and it's usually quite a much more jovial mode, where now you have gone past that death part and you are moving on to life after death. So it's a very beautiful social aspect. Now this Dhananjaya for the yogis and the siddhas was of great importance, because the Dhananjaya is the prana vayu that allows you to practice what these guys love to do, which is transmigration. It is a siddhi where you leave your body and enter another person's body. And these yogis and siddhas used to do a lot of this type of stuff. It is well documented that Adi Shankara around the 7th century, in the middle of a debate where he is asked about this fact, he is told, you were a young boy when you took up sannyas, you have no knowledge about family life at all. You have no knowledge about worldly life at all. How can you debate on that topic? And he says, give me some time. In the middle of the debate, he leaves for a few months and he takes on the body of a king who had passed away, spends a couple of months in that king's body, experiencing day-to-day life, material life, family life, worldly life, and then at an appropriate moment leaves the body, comes back, enters his body and comes back to the debate. Thirumalar has done the same thing. He comes down and he enters the body of a dead cowherd, and then when he gets back, he finds his original body is missing and realizes he is to be here in Tamil Nadu and spread the message of yoga in the Tamil culture through his 3000 verses in Tamil. Lot of stories of Agastya doing it. Arunagirinatha used to do that. This is part of our cultural ethos. Now here, in order to take over another body, first of all, that body should be dead. You cannot go and enter somebody else's body when there is already an Atma in that body. So you cannot have two souls in one body. It's not possession. There is a difference here. It's not possession. It's transmigration. Now here the key in all of these stories is keep your original body safe, because your enemies may burn it up and then you don't have your original body to come back to. And so this is always an important part of this siddhi. Now in order for that transmigration to occur, if somebody has died 6 months ago, you cannot enter that body, okay? There is a window period in which the body still has enough energy that another soul can enter and continue. That is what this Dhananjaya is giving us. It is a window period. Today, as a medical doctor, it is of interest to me because it is the period within which an organ of a dead person can be taken and transplanted into another person and help them continue their life with a new body organ, a liver, a pancreas, a heart, and who knows in future, maybe even a brain. That is the type of energy that Dhananjaya has. An amazing energy that is giving us the potential to continue our life. I remember a great man, and every day I am becoming more and more grateful for the great people I have met in my life. Every day I am becoming more and more grateful, because I am realizing we don't find such humans on this planet anymore. I remember a very amazing, small old man. He was so small, he was like a sparrow. Swamiji used to tease him that he is like a sparrow. He had become so small. Suddhananda Bharati. He was a great poet. He spoke a dozen languages, and he is a great poet in Tamil, Sanskrit and all, and he would visit Pondicherry, stay at the ashram, and Swamiji and him got along so beautifully, and I used to sing a lot of his compositions, and he was there for my Mridangam Arangetram, my Mridangam debut as the chief guest, and at that time I didn't realize what a great man he was. Later on I came to know. I just thought he's this funny old little man, little old funny man, or whatever the adjectives go. And Swamiji used to ask him how old he was, because he must have been close to 100 at that time. Tiny guy, and used to he's just so energetic. Must have been close to 100. And he used to tell Swamiji, well, if you ask me my age, it is 101 or 102. But actually you have to add 13 years to it. So I'm actually 115. Swamiji used to say, what do you mean, Swamiji? He said, I was born to my parents, and He said, I died as a 13-year-old because of a certain disease. And he said, I was born back to the same parents again. And so I consider those 13 years to be added to my age actually, because I was born again to the same parents. This is the type of cultural teachings you find with these people. There's a lot of this type of energy. So, Naga, Kurma, Krikara, Devadatta, Dhananjaya, these are protective. What is Dhananjaya protecting? It is protecting the life force in case there is a possibility of the soul again coming back into the body. And this is where people have these out of the body experiences. People talk about dying and spending a few hours and then coming back into the body. It would be explained by the Dhananjaya Pranavayu's potential role in such experiences. So you have the 5 major prana, the 5 minor prana. But then what makes us a human being? That is where you have the Akasha Pranavayu and the Chitra Pranavayu. These are called Para Pranavayu, the higher Pranavayus. So you have Pranavayu, Upa Pranavayu, Para Pranavayu. And these Para Pranavayus, the 2 of them, they are enabling us to be not just a functional human being, but a human being capable of the thought process, the cognitive process, especially of higher thought, superior thought, superior functionality. The Akasha Pranavayu is the energy that enables us to download thoughts out of thin air from Akash. Ether is thin air. And so it is like you're plucking a thought out of the Anandamaya Kosha. You're plucking a thought from the Anandamaya Kosha and the Vijnanamaya Kosha and bringing it down into your Manomaya Kosha, where suddenly you have this thought in your Manomaya Kosha. Bingo, the light comes on. Where did it come from? Anandamaya and Vijnanamaya Kosha, you have plucked it down. That energy that enables that process to manifest in you is the Akasha Pranavayu. Now at the same time, you can have a body experience through the Annamaya and Pranamaya Kosha, especially your nervous system, that then gets upgraded and creates a thought in the Manomaya Kosha. That is called Chitra Pranavayu. Chitra means a painting. So just like you put the dots together and suddenly it becomes an image. Every image we see, like the images on our computer screen now, are countless pixels that are coming together to create an image. The pixels create an image. The dots create the image. The brush strokes create the painting. Chitra, Pranavayu. So the physiological activities in your nervous system get upgraded into a cognitive thought because of that. Now, my biggest criticism of modern neuroscience, and I love neuroscience. Divya and I have been studying some hardcore neuroscience for her neuropsychology paper. It's more neuroscience than I ever studied as a doctor. And I'm like, why are you people, you kids being put in through this torture? You don't need to know all of this, but they are being made to study it. But out of it, if you study 100 things, you remember one thing in the future. So nothing wrong in studying a lot, okay? If you study only one thing, most probably you'll forget it in the future. So study it in such detail that at least you remember there was a textbook called neuropsychology, even if you don't remember what was in the textbook. But my biggest criticism of modern neuroscience is they have tried to make it sound like all thoughts are just chemical and neurological twitches. Chemical rushes and neurological twitches, that a part of your brain gets activated and you have a thought, or a neuropeptide is secreted and you have a thought. And they have tried to dumb us down into reactive species. That we are just, the thoughts are the reaction to neurological processes. This is actually much of what people are trying to limit it, and that is very dangerous, very dangerous. In fact, we were looking at an interesting thing about choice and decision making. In fact, that was the title of her presentation for one of her seminars. And I had actually wanted her to go and sing the song, which Amma used to, impossible becomes I am possible, and I can't, I won't. I said that would be great for this, and she's like, my professor would kick me out if I do all of that. I'm like, seriously, you don't know, it would enliven the class so much. But we were talking about it, and when you go into the depth of choice and decision making, you think it is free will, but they say that just before that choice is being made, they are starting to find certain neurons firing before you make the choice. It's in such small time units, it's tough to do. So even the fact you think you have a choice may not be a choice. That is what some of these studies are trying to tell us. But I think they have missed a lot. And this is where I think, quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and what I would call meta-psychology and all, we need to look at that part, because the hardcore, pure science wants to limit the mind to the brain. There are parts of us that are connected. The brain is an antenna, and we are downloading impulses into our consciousness. That is the Akasha Pranavayu. Now, yes, I heard a sound, and so I start to wonder what sound it is. That is reactive, no doubt about it. But I am sitting in deep contemplation and have a thought that comes out of the cosmos. That doesn't have to come from a neurochemical reaction. So, it's not that all thoughts have to be this, but because as a general species, most of our cognitive process is reactive. I think that's why we are getting limited to it. So the Chitra Pranavayu is doing a lot of work. So these 12, the 5 that keep your physiological functions going, make you a functional human being. The next 5 that enable you to survive as a functional human being. And then the last 2 that enable you to move from being just a functional human being to being someone who can conceptualize, rationalize, and have vision.